There is a current to our universe. There is a path reality is on, this logical if A then B, that carries with it such an unfathomable strength. And despite the futility, it is in our nature as individuals to put forth our vision for what it should be. The universe is indifferent to our expectations. Some are satiated while others are left hung out to dry. The Buddhists do say that desire is the root of all human suffering for a reason. And today in my garage, I'll be talking about the failures of our expectations in The Great Gatsby. My name is Davis Baum, and I will see you there. I've had a thought before that the state of the world is partially the result of a never-ending battle royale between individuals and their expectations, and only those so motivated will be able to take their slice of the pie, to have their expectations be fulfilled. I know that's oversimplifying it. There's definitely more that goes into that, but I think there is some accurate truth there about how individual desires impact the state of the world. Everyone desires and has expectations for their life. However, some people don't pursue them whatsoever, other people pursue them to no end, and some people pull out all the stops and arrive somewhere that they're still not satisfied with. In The Great Gatsby, we follow the narrator Nick Carraway as he gets to know this mysterious figure, Gatsby, Jay Gatsby. He lives in luxury and opulence, and he's a mysterious man. And as you get to know him, his persona unravels to where you see him as just some guy who's desperately trying to chase the one who got away. Her name is Daisy. So to connect those details to the theme of this video, there is a current to the world, and that current is indifferent to us. Not everyone is satiated. This is the girl who got away, and Gatsby is desperately trying to chase her. However, it's years later from when they first talked. He ended up doing some army stuff, if I remember correctly. And now she's married, and it's years later, and what's going to happen? Nick ultimately helps Gatsby link up with Daisy, and they kind of get together and they have a good time for a moment. However, it isn't picture perfect, and when Nick sees them together and he kind of like gets a little third-person observer to it, it is not picture perfect, and there's something hedonistic and fleeting about their relationship. The story ends tragically with Gatsby dead, and everyone except for Nick, our narrator that we've been following, they all just kind of go back to their life, their role in life, so to speak. The whole point of this video is actually to talk about the last line of the novel, The Great Gatsby. It's a very, very powerful line. At the end of the novel, Nick is having an internal dialogue over Gatsby and people and the world in general in a really philosophical way. He was so involved in this thing, and he was helping Gatsby. He finds out Gatsby was never the person he thought he was, and Daisy and him are just like fleeting hedonism, and to him the whole picture is just a mess and doesn't make any sense. And at the end he sums it up with a really beautiful line. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne ceaselessly into the past. So that is a very beautiful line, but it's also a very dark line, because the philosophical implications of that belief is an understanding of the human experience as something inherently combative, where you exist in a fight against reality, where you're fighting against the current, being born ceaselessly into the past, just trying to make your desires and expectations known to the world. But I actually want to critique this statement. I do think that there's truth there, but the understanding of that statement as the only understanding of the human experience, I think, is a little silly. Fitzgerald paints a picture with that line that there is no other option to interacting with the current of the universe. The combative relationship between the individual and reality that Fitzgerald is talking about in that last line is something that inherently stems from the ego or the distinct self's desire to mold reality to its own imagining. This is actually a very Luciferian idea, a very Luciferian existence. The whole idea of I know better than the one, than the God. So reality should mold to my imagining. As we grow up and develop the distinct self, the ego, we also develop desires, proclivities, and expectations for who we should be, what the world should be like, and what I need to get from it. From these expectations, people experience subsequent success or failure, which in turn influences new desires and new expectations. This cycle, which many people exist in, myself included, leaves many people unfulfilled because that cycle just creates new holes that need to be filled, and you can never fill the hole. And it reinforces that combative existence with your reality rather than existing in harmony with whatever state it is. To go back to the quote though, Fitzgerald argues that the human experience is inherently combative, where the individual tries to mold the current of reality to its own imagining. However, there is another option. Rather than existing in a state of combat with your reality, people may embrace reality. They may shed their expectations and turn with the current rather than existing in a fight against it. To turn the boat around and fly with the current towards the future rather than to be born ceaselessly into the past. Some people will hear that statement and think, well, then what are you asking from people? Just to opt out of life and reality and to withhold any of their expectations? Yes and no. You don't have to opt out of life or the lived experience. Rather, the goal is to shed these layers and layers of material motivation that we have developed throughout our life. The idea of interacting with things as an end in themselves versus as a means to an end is an interesting way of discussing the solution that I brought up. Are you friends with someone because of what they bring to the table to you, like they have a lot of money or they have connections or they have social status? Or are you friends with them because of an intuitive, organic bond? A friend in and of itself versus a friend as a means to an end. And the same thing with your work. Do you work at a place because of the networks that it's going to expose you to, or the amount of money it's going to give you, or how people are going to see you for having a certain job? Or are you working that place because it's an intuitive, organic position that you felt that you should strive for? Again, is it a means to an end, or is it an end in itself? So the distinction between these two is really in the intent of it. Do you interact with these objects in your life and in your reality for a material motivated thing? And another part of this is strive for the sake of striving. Put yourself out there to put yourself out there. To do your best, to do your best. Not so much to get something out of it, but rather to be the best because you want to be your best. But these are just important questions to ask yourself about your life. Desires and expectations, whether satiated or not, leave people unfulfilled because you're either disappointed at the get-go or you're in a cycle of chasing and chasing and chasing until you're disappointed or dead. Rather than existing in a state of combat with your world and to see reality as your antagonist, the Buddhists say you should abandon your expectations and you should expect reality as it is, to act intuitively and authentically as possible, and to avoid using people and objects, and rather to see and interact with them as ends in themselves. Now, I might be making this seem easier than it is, and I don't mean to, because this is very, very difficult. Desires are one thing, but there's an even deeper thing of desiring to desire. And it is very difficult for people to go down this path. However, it is much more fulfilling than existing in this state of combat. All this stuff is a process, and it's difficult, but once practiced, you do get a lot out of it. Thank you guys for watching my video on the Great Gatsby and Buddhism and desires and expectations. I thought that it would be an interesting thing to talk about, and if I'm being honest, actually I haven't read Great Gatsby in like 4, maybe 5 years. It's just something that I had read before. I really thought about a lot when I did read in high school, and I had thought about it a lot since then, so I was like, screw it, I'll just make a easy video on this last line of the novel that I knew a decent bit about. But I hope you guys liked it, because I liked it a lot. And The Great Gatsby isn't a bad novel. It's not my favorite novel, but yeah, check it out if you want to check it out and haven't checked it out. It's pretty good. But as always, I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you had a lot of fun watching this video. And I hope to see you guys soon. Much love. Peace, peace.